Hey Playas, how you doing? Welcome back to Playas Guide. On this episode of Playas Guide, I'm going to be talking about 6 Famicom games that we never got here in North America that are definitely worth importing. Alright, so let's start things off with Goonies. We got Goonies 2, but we didn't get the original Goonies game. They did in Japan on the Famicom. And when I was younger, I always wondered about there being a Goonies 2 movie, because I remember seeing the game and thinking that the game would have been based on a film franchise sequel, which didn't exist. So I think a lot of other people who grew up in the 80s and 90s wondered the same thing, why there was a Goonies 2 on the NES when there was no Goonies 2 movie, or for that matter, a Goonies game, like an original based off the movie on the NES. But there was. It was only released in Japan, however, which didn't make a lot of sense. But this game came out on the Famicom. This is a pretty common game, so you shouldn't have any trouble getting your hands on a copy if you're in Japan or you're looking for games online. This game, you go through different caverns and you want to collect usually 3 keys, which will unlock a gate. You're also going to want to save your friends and collect various power-ups that you can use against your enemies throughout the stage. And the one power-up that I liked the most was the slingshot. I guess it's the most powerful, but that's as far as I got. I only got to about the 5th dungeon. Now, I like a lot of the Konami exclusive Famicom games, this one included. Now, if you haven't seen, I did a part 1 to the Famicom games, and I'll link that at the end of the video, so stick around for that if you're interested in Famicom games. Another Konami game is Gradius 2. Now, I'm not exactly sure why Gradius 2 didn't make it to North America. I have beaten quite a few of the Gradius games. Some of them are pretty difficult, and I haven't been able to beat them. But I find this one to be the hardest that I've played. Maybe that's a personal struggle. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, if you think that this is a hard game or not. But I found it extremely challenging, and the Gradius games aren't really considered to be easy games. So you're probably going to find this one really difficult if you have any difficulty with the other Gradius games. Now, one of the reasons this game looks and sounds so good is because it had a custom mapper, and in order for Konami to mass produce this game, it would have been a little bit more expensive than the standard mapper. So that, with the combination of the difficulty, they probably decided not to release it in North America. So we got Life Force, which is Salamander, on the Famicom, and that was our sequel. And this is one of the reasons when you jump to the Super Nintendo, there's a Gradius 3, and maybe you're wondering what happened to Gradius 2. It does exist. So this game is a uncommon game, you know. It's not the cheapest game, but it really isn't that expensive, so you shouldn't really have too much trouble finding a copy of this game online. Alright, let's keep it up with Konami Kid Dracula. Excellent Famicom game. I would highly recommend this one to you. It is a fun action platformer. With each stage, you gain a new ability or power-up that you can use to help you progress through each consecutive following stage. There's a good amount of variety of enemies and platforming. Each stage ends with a boss fight, followed up by a bonus minigame that is selected at random between 4 different mini-games, and based on how many coins you collected from defeating your enemies throughout each stage will determine how many turns you get at the bonus game. Now, this game is also sort of uncommon, but you could find it online. It's not going to be a cheap one, but it's not too expensive either. There's also a lot of reproductions and a Game Boy Kid Dracula game out there too that we did get in North America if you are interested in this franchise. So let's step away from Konami for just a moment and I'm going to talk about another game. May Penguin Monogatari. Is that right? I don't know. Another thing you can let me know in the comment section is if I just butchered that name. But this game is a lot of fun. Whether I could pronounce the name of it or not, and I mean, I guess that's the Japanese name. I don't know what that translates to. It definitely has something to do with a penguin, because you play as a penguin, and you're going to find yourself trying to dodge sweets. You're going to try to eat as little food as possible unless you get hot sauce. If you get hot sauce, that will help your penguin lose weight. Now, in this game, that's the goal. You're a fat penguin who wants to lose weight in order to impress your penguin girlfriend, who has been abducted. And throughout the stages, beating different enemies, you'll get some hot sauce that you want to consume. And you're also going to, as you progress and beat enemies, you're just generally going to lose weight by doing these things, these activities, by getting physical. So when you get to the end of each stage, after you beat the boss, you are going to get a phone call from your girl, and she is going to basically judge you on if you're thin enough or fit enough. And if you're not, you have to redo the stage all over again. Now, even if you do end up having to redo some stages in this game, that's okay. It's a very short game. This is one that I was able to play through in like 20 minutes or a half hour. It's really not that long, and it's really not that difficult, but it is a lot of fun. It is kind of uncommon, and like a lot of the games so far on this list, I think that's because of the demand. They're somewhat desirable games, so they're not the cheapest games, but because they're not really too rare, they're also not going to be expensive. So I would definitely recommend picking this one up. Kokoron is another game that I'm probably mispronouncing, but that's okay, because who even knows what that word means in North American English, if it means anything at all. But this game is pretty cool. You start off with a bunch of heads and bodies and power-up abilities, and if you don't have a translated version of this game, you're going to maybe have some trouble deciphering what these different abilities are unless you actually go through them all and use them. But going through and using all of these abilities and mixing and matching to create your own unique characters is a lot of fun, and one of the most fun aspects of this game. So you're probably going to enjoy doing that, and you're going to find some different combinations that really work well for you. I was able to find a few. There's one guy I got here that was jumping really high and shooting, and I liked him. He worked really well in a lot of these stages. So this is a multi-map platformer where you could select which stage and which character you want to play as, so there's a good amount of variety here given to you right up front going into this game. Each stage has a boss fight. It's your standard platformer formula, and it works really well in this game. It sounds good, it looks good, it's very colorful, and if you're a fan of colorful platformers on the NES like I am, then Kokoron is one that you're probably going to want to import. And just like almost every other game on this list, with the exception, I guess, of Goonies at this point, this game is still a little bit uncommon and desirable, so it's not going to be cheap, but it's not going to be too expensive. Looking online, you could probably pick one up on eBay for a reasonable price. So the final game, and I don't know really if this is the best for last, but it's another Konami game. It's called King Kong 2. So this King Kong game is based on King Kong 2, the movie, which came out like decades later after the original King Kong. And I don't know why we didn't get this one in North America. It may have had something to do with Nintendo's publishing rules, allowing publishers to only produce 6 games per year on the Nintendo Entertainment System. So, that being said though, why would they not publish this under Ultra, which was Konami's subsidiary company and their workaround Nintendo's policies to get more of their games on the market? This is a good game. It's fun. It's not the best game on this list, but it is one of the more common games and one of the less expensive games that I've mentioned here today. on this video. And you go around, you collect items, you punch things and blow them up. It can get pretty challenging and sometimes hectic on the screen, but it doesn't get too overwhelming either. There are boss fights, and the ultimate goal here is to rescue the Lady Kong. The Queen Kong? I don't know what you would call her, but it's King Kong's girlfriend. And that's the object of the game. Some of the like dungeon areas remind me a little bit of Zelda. All right, Playas, that's it for this episode of Playas Guide. You got 6 new Famicom games to go check out. Hopefully there's some of these that you haven't heard of. If you have, and you know of other really good Famicom games that aren't in this video, or the other Famicom video that is going to be linked right after I'm done giving the whole spiel here, leave a comment in the comments below and let me know what those games are, because I want to play them, and I'm sure other people who've clicked on this video to watch it would also be interested. If you're interested in talking more about different imports, retro games, and game collecting, join the Playas Guide Discord. I'm going to put a link below to that Discord. Come hang out with us. We got a growing group of really cool people on there. That's it for this episode. Keep it retro. Later, Playas.